Hello and welcome to episode 24 of Mad Knitting. Today is Thursday, September 15, 2022. My name is Susan. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm coming to you from Madison, Wisconsin, where I live with my family and where I work and where I knit a whole lot. My Ravelry handle is madtownmama. You can also find me on Instagram as madtown_mama, and I will put links to everything in the description box below here. So if you want to find out more, that's where you can go. It's been about 3 weeks since the last time I made a recording and posted a video. I was thinking that I would get back on my every other week schedule, but you know, sometimes things get in the way. I mentioned in my last video that I was scheduled for surgery. That happened last Friday. I had to get my gallbladder out. It was a laparoscopic procedure and it was outpatient, so I was home that afternoon, but I have spent the last several days at home resting and recovering and taking it easy, and I am happy to say that today I am finally able to sit up straight and manage without any painkillers. So that is definitely a milestone. Also, school started 2 weeks ago today here in Madison. I have 2 kids in high school, and while it is great that they are teenagers and have a lot of independence and autonomy, it has still been like a really big adjustment to the routine, especially for both of them. My younger one is in 9th grade, so she just started high school. So that's different. That's just a lot to get used to. And my older one is has to leave extra early because he's taking one class on campus this year. And so there's just been a lot of adjustment all around. Plus this week I haven't been able to, do as much around the house as I normally do. So I am very happy to be back though. I have a lot of different things to share. Not as many finished things as I was anticipating, but that's just how it goes sometimes. So I'm going to start with finished objects, and this is going to be the shortest segment for today because there's only one thing that I have finished, although it's a very fun thing. So these are a pair of F-bombs. I have a pair of bombs. Let me give you a closer look. I have a friend, good friend of mine I've known since high school. So we've known each other for a really long time now. She is living in Texas. She works as a teacher there. So she has no small amount of stress in her life. And she sent me a message probably a month ago, if not longer, asking if I would make her. She said, would you be willing to make me F-bombs? Like a couple of F-bombs, kind of as a stress ball thing. And of course I said sure, because I thought it sounded like fun and she's totally deserving. And I did a little looking on Ravelry. It turns out there were no fewer than 3 patterns for essentially this. I picked a free one. This is called The F-Bomb by Jennifer Spock-Rank. And you just basically knit a ball with worsted weight yarn and stuff it. And then you can do a little crocheted fuse. I got a little confused about how exactly that was supposed to work. So I did sort of 2 different versions. So one, I did like a crochet chain that I kind of made a loop with. And for the second one, I chained maybe 12 stitches and then I did a single crochet back down and then secured the ends inside. So I am not a crocheter. I don't really know how to follow crochet instructions, although it has been my intention for several years now to learn how to do that because there's some fun stuff out there. But I do know how to do a single crochet and a double crochet stitch. Like I can do the stitches. So if there's an edge on something, or if I need a little bit like this, I can do that. Another technique that was new to me for these was the duplicate stitch. So you take charcoal or black to do the actual ball part, and then when it's all done, you duplicate stitch with red or orange the F, to make it the F bomb. And I know there are tutorials out there. I just kind of winged it. So you can see there's a couple columns here for the vertical part of the letter F, and then these for the, I don't know what you call that part of the letter, like the flag. I did okay with these columns, but for some reason when I tried to go horizontal, my stitches were like hot garbage. This is the first one I made, and I don't think it looks any better than the second one. I don't think the second one looks any better than the first one. I don't think I could do any better than this. So this is how they're gonna be. But these were really fun to make. They didn't take very long, except that I just kind of kept putting them down and picking them up in between stuff. So anyway, now that I've finished them, I need to take some photos and I need to send them to Texas because my friend has been, I think school started for them at least a month ago. So she is long overdue to get her F-bombs going. I do have several works in progress to show you. Since I was, out of commission and then have been taking it easy this week, I've just been kind of letting myself knit whatever I feel like. So I've got a couple of new cast-ons to show you, but I also have an update on this Epistrophy sweater, and it's not a good one, I regret to say. So I've been working on Epistrophy. It's by Kate Davies. It's from her book Yokes, which came out, I think, in 2012. And this is the sweater. And I've been wanting to knit this for years. I just fell in love with that colorwork design on the yoke. It's geometric and interesting. I thought it would be fun to knit. I got really excited because I found this local yarn. This is something I talked about in the last episode. I'll show you the yarn. This is like DK Shetland wool that was raised in Wisconsin, and I think the yarn was milled here somewhere too. For the contrast, I have this gorgeous Corriedale that was hand spun and hand dyed. I actually bought the Corriedale first at a shop in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, which is kind of right in the middle of the state. And I got this, and then when I was back there for another work trip, I picked up the Shetland to go with it because I thought they would just look really, really pretty together. And I was right about that. They do look really pretty together. So this is as far as I've gotten. Got the body done. This is a cardigan with steek. So you put these extra stitches in the middle with the intention of cutting the steek and then picking up stitches to do a button band up the sides. So that's why that's why this pattern is interrupted in the middle of the yoke. Because these are stitches that will not show. They would be turned to the inside and on the facing of the button band. But I mean, the way this color work was coming out, I was so happy with it. I don't know how well it's showing here, but that Corriedale, you can see there is subtle color change. It's got different browns and greens, and sort of these fall shades. So one modification I made to the pattern was that she, just construction wise, she calls for you to knit the sleeves and then join everything up. I didn't know how much yarn I was going to have. I actually don't think that's going to be an issue at all, but I didn't want to do that, so I did a provisional cast on with the intention of finishing the sleeves at the end. I'm glad I did that because I'm not exactly sure the fate of this sweater right now. So the issue is, again, the neck, the fit of the top of the sweater. When I say again, I feel like this is a recurring thing where at least this is the second sweater now in a row where the pattern as written just does not fit properly at the top. I was warned about this. I had posted something in my stories about the neckline, or I don't know, something about making progress on this yoke. And I got a message from somebody who tried to knit this sweater a while ago along with a friend, so this was like more than one person, and said, watch out for that neckline, it just does not work. She said they had issues with the shoulders being too narrow and the neckline too wide, and it just didn't lie right, you know, on the body. So I was aware of that, and you know, I got pretty far up the color work and I tried it on and I thought, oh yeah, this neck really is wide. So I mean, this has been through a few iterations already. I already added short rows under the color work in the back. The pattern doesn't call for that, but she does vaguely suggest that you can do that if you want without giving you any instructions. Offering no instructions was a little bit annoying, but I knew how to do it, so I added those in myself. And then when I got to the top of the color work, I added more short rows thinking I might need to raise the back even more. And when I tried it on, it was coming like way up. So I knew that wasn't going to be feasible. So I ripped that out. And then I tried just decreasing because I didn't want it to be such a spread wide neckline. So I tried decreasing a few stitches before doing the ribbing. And then when I tried it on, it just, I'm not going to try it on for you now because it'd be way too hot. But I think I've got a picture that I can insert, but it just does not work. I don't think you can tell just from looking at it, but it really is too narrow. I think there's just too much decreasing at the shoulder. So when I put it on to try it on, I can feel it pulling. And then the neck just, you can kind of see here, it just sticks up. It sort of flares out and sticks up and just does not work. So I'm not really sure what to do about it. So I've put it down and haven't touched it in over a week while I stew over this. I could pull it out and try, I don't know if maybe I could adapt the chart so there's not as much decrease, like eliminate a decrease so that the shoulder isn't so tight. Or I could just rip back some, like just not include all of the color work. I think my row gauge might be a little different than hers, so that's part of the issue why it's kind of coming up so much. But I don't know, I've totally lost steam on this thing because I'm so disappointed with the fit. And the thing is, what I really wanted was a yoked cardigan out of this Shetland wool with this beautiful, you know, Corriedale contrast. And there are a million, maybe not a million, but there are many DK color work sweater designs out there that I could do instead. So I think what is likely to happen is that I will just rip this out and knit something else. I really want it to be a cardigan in part because this Shetland wool is, I wouldn't call it rough. Like I don't find it scratchy when I rub it on my neck, but it's extremely warm and I want something that I can open so I don't overheat. And also, I don't know that it's like necessarily something I want next to my skin all the time. So I will be doing some investigating of yoked designs. I feel pretty comfortable with taking like an existing pullover and just making sure the round starts in the middle front and adding stitches for a steek there. So I don't even necessarily need to limit myself to cardigan designs, but right now what I'm thinking I'll probably do is look in the catalog of Tin Can Knits patterns, particularly the Strange Brew book, which just has instructions for any size, many gauges, and has lots and lots of colorwork charts. So I think I will probably go with something from there. But I haven't really had the brain space or the energy or the motivation to do that yet. So I just kind of threw it in the basket and I'm sulking just a little bit. I also want to point out that this Cordale, I already broke the yarn when I was done with the color work and there's a huge amount of it left. So I don't know if I'll like extend color work like further down the body or use this for something else, but it's so pretty. I like how it's got subtle shades of brown and kind of a dusky lavender. And there's oranges in there too, if you look at the plies. So anyway, so that's my big womp womp about Epistrophy, but it's all right. It's yarn, I can reknit it. And it's not like I'm short on sweaters at the moment. So I'll figure it out eventually. I do, however, have a couple of new things that I've started. One, I'm calling these my surgery socks. So I had to be at the hospital really, really early Friday morning. And there's a long time where they spend prepping you and stuff before you actually go in. And I was really nervous because I had not been through this before. I was really afraid of how I was going to feel after and the recovery. I think sometimes the anticipation is like worse than actually going through it sometimes. But anyway, to keep myself calm or to at least give myself something to do, I brought a sock project. So I've already finished the first one. While I was in the hospital, I only got like a little bit of the cuff done. There's no pattern for this. It's just I cast on 60 stitches using size 1.5 needles. I think that's 2.5 millimeter because this yarn seemed to have a little more body than a lot of other sock yarns. Usually I use a size 1 and cast on 64. I have a 2x2 cuff. I kept the 2x2 ribbing going down the front of the leg and all the way down the top of the foot. And then I did plain stockinette on the back of the leg and the bottom of the foot. And I, like always, did an Eye of Partridge heel flap. I've got my 3 garter stitch ridge along each side of the heel, which makes it easy to pick up those stitches. And then for the toe, when I was done with the decreases, I did another round of knit 2 together and just pulled the end through the stitches rather than grafting them together. And it fits beautifully. So I'm particularly pleased with how the colors worked on this sock because as you can see, it's kind of a self-striping situation. And I decided like I wasn't going to try to do any management with the colors to avoid pooling or whatever. I just thought whatever happens around the heel and the foot will just happen. And it actually, I think because the stripes are so narrow, I have stripes on the heel and it didn't get too distorted through the gusset decreases. So I'm very pleased about that. I've started the second sock. I actually had to log on to work today to do some meetings, which I wasn't thrilled about, but needed to happen. So I actually got quite a lot of knitting done on the cuff today. The yarn has been a very pleasant surprise. This is what it looks like in the skein. It's called Andy's Socks. I don't know the brand. Plymouth. It's a Plymouth yarn. I got it at the Wisconsin Craft Market when they were closing last year. So they had to shut down for COVID. They were going to go out of business in spring of 2020. And they had this plan to have everything on sale, kind of going on a deeper discount throughout April of 2020. Well, when COVID hit, everybody had to close everything. So I think what they did was put all their stuff into storage, and finally last fall, they opened up in a different location just to sell off all their stuff. So I went in there more times than I care to admit and bought yarn on clearance, because sometimes that just happens. And this was one of the things I picked up was this sock yarn. It's actually got alpaca in it. It's 55% fine merino superwash, 20% FS alpaca. I don't know what that means, what FS means, and 25% nylon. So the alpaca in here makes it extra warm, makes it extra soft. I also think that it's going to affect the memory of the yarn. That's why I wanted to have ribbing all the way down. But I'm really looking forward to wearing these in the winter. I remember, this is the only one I have, and I remember that in the store they had a few different colors, and I remember standing there kind of debating how many I should get, because I A, have enough sock yarn, I really didn't have business buying more, and B, I think the colors they had were kind of ugly. The Wisconsin Craft Market, if you're local and you're watching, you may remember them. Kind of an odd little place, not fancy at all. They had all kinds of art supplies. They actually, in the last few years they were around, had a pretty good yarn selection and a really good variety of yarn selection. They had everything from your very inexpensive Bernat and Lion brand acrylics to local hand-dyed independent, businesses, to a lot of pretty nice commercial yarns like Plymouth and Barocco and Cascade. They would also get a lot of stuff in closeout. So I think what they would do is buy out, whenever a yarn was closing out or there was overstock or something, they would get it and they would just end up on the bargain shelf. So it wasn't the most beautifully arranged, aesthetically beautiful place, but you could find some pretty nice stuff there, and there was often a good deal to be had. So I made a few visits as they were closing, and this is one of the things I brought home. And I'm kind of wishing now that I had gotten more, even if it was in colors I didn't love, because I think the feel of this is going to be really, really nice when the weather gets cold. So those will get done pretty quick, assuming I don't lose them. These do fit, so that's not going to be an issue. But yeah, I spend a lot of time in meetings online and on webinars and stuff like that. So I get a lot of sock knitting done and simple hats done in that time. All right. My last work in progress is the most exciting. It's fun. And it's also a potential spoiler alert. So I am making the mystery gnome that is being released in pieces by Sarah Shira of Imagine Landscapes. So if you are working on that pattern and you don't want any spoilers, I'll put a timestamp here so you know where to skip ahead, where you won't see anything. Okay, you've been warned. So the first thing I'll talk about is the yarn. I know that I shared last time that I was trying to decide on colors. And the tricky thing about a mystery knit along, even if it's for a toy or a gnome, not something you're gonna wear, is that you don't know exactly how the colors are gonna be used. So I didn't know how much contrast I needed. Like, was it okay to have two things that were sort of close together in hue, or should I have higher contrast? So I picked out some colors, and then when the first clue came out and I saw the different options, because this mystery has like a bunch of options, so you can pick if you want plain or striped or these other textured cool things. Once I saw what was going on with that, I thought, I don't really like what I picked to go together because they don't contrast enough. So I went back and adjusted. I also, for some reason, I think because I was just looking through all my worsted weight, you know, my big bin of worsted weight stuff, and I had some colors that I picked to go together, and then I found another set of colors that I picked to go together, and I really couldn't decide which one I liked better. So then I thought, what the hell? I'm laid up all week. I might as well do two gnomes, because two is more fun than one. And, you know, this way, maybe I'm getting a jump on holiday knitting. So that's what I did. I've got two of these going. And if I hadn't needed to take time off this week, there's no way that I could have kept up. Okay, so I'm going to show you the first one. There are different options for yarn weights. I am using worsted weight. And clearly I have chosen this color work texture thing near the brim. So I've got this dark kind of maroon, burgundy, heathery mix. And it was really hard to find something I liked to go with it. And the more I looked at this charcoal, which is actually left over from the F-bomb, and that's a skein that's left over from the unbearable hoodie that I made for my brother, the more I liked these together. So I did this cool texture color work option near the brim of the hat, and I decided to go with a very plain gnome body. And the more I look at it, the more I think it kind of looks like a witch's hat, kind of has like a Halloween vibe. So I don't know, we'll see what it looks like when there's like a beard and arms and everything. I have not quite finished yet. I got to the point where you need to stuff it, and then I just sort of ran out of time. I just haven't gotten further than that yet, but you can see what I've done here. For the second gnome, oh, what else was I gonna say? I initially, we'll see what the next clue says, but I initially just picked out this cream because I wanted that for the beard, but I'm thinking that's pretty harsh. So I might see if I can find like a lighter gray instead. But the next clue I think comes out tomorrow, so I don't have to think about that just yet. So for the second gnome, the combination I found was, let me show you the colors first. I'm moving slower, you guys. Slower than I'm used to, but faster than I have the rest of this week. So for the second one, I have these three colors. So I've got this gray. This is actually left over from that sweater that I made for my dad. And this golden yellow. I mean, this is like exactly the color of sunflower leaves. Not leaves, sunflower blossoms. And then this pale gray. This is the color Fog in the yarn Barocco Lioness. Why do I remember this? I don't know. This is from a sweater I made for my daughter. This is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, and I have no idea what the yellow is. Probably Knit Picks. So I know that Grello is like, so 5 years ago or something, but I really like how these go together. So for the second gnome, as you can see, I did the same textured color work option near the brim. using the yellow as the contrast. And then I thought it'd be cool to do stripes on the body. And my original thought was, oh, I'll just keep the same gray and yellow. But the instructions called to use for your third color on the stripes, and somehow it works. So this is gnome number 2. Now what I don't know, when it comes to the beard, I had originally thought like, oh, I'll just use this light gray for the beard as well. But I might want more contrast for that, so I might just go with a white beard so it shows up a little better against these light gray and yellow stripes. I don't know exactly what I'll do with that, but I'm leaning towards this for the beard on this gnome, and I might use this light gray for the beard on the witchy gnome. It's just been really fun to do this. You know, just picking up a project on a whim, and like especially Monday and Tuesday, it was hard to get around. I was still working on pain management, so I spent most of my time sitting or napping. And when I wasn't napping, I was like watching knitters on YouTube and knitting gnomes. And I'm thinking I'm gonna give these to my kids for Christmas, because even though they're teenagers and technically too old for toys, they really get a kick out of gnomes. So I think that's what I'll do with them. I want to talk about the stuffing just a little bit, because as you can see, those are pretty sizable, and I don't want to buy polyfill because that's basically plastic, and I've got an alternative that I think is kind of cool. So I have, let me go get it. I think I mentioned this in an earlier episode when I talked about frog and toad and what I used. I have these pillows that I got one time that we just kind of have fallen out of favor for us. But I kept them because the stuffing is really useful. And these are filled with like a natural latex stuffing, which kind of gets in the air. So I'm going to show you really carefully so I don't spill it. But you can see it's a lot like just stuffing, and I've got this whole pillow full, and it kind of gets everywhere if you're not careful. I use this to stuff the F-bomb for my friend, but I'm going to use this to stuff most of the gnome. And then as I get to the bottom, because it's kind of a bigger one, it will need weighted stuffing. I have made these pouches and filled them with buckwheat hulls. And the buckwheat hulls are what I use to fill frog and toad, which I know that I talked about and had a little bit of footage of in the video about that. So I will link that episode in the description below in case you want to go back and see that. But I took scrap fabric, sewed a pouch, carefully filled them with the buckwheat hulls. I've got some left here to show you. These were filler for another pillow that we had. But that's what they look like. Oh, come on. Gonna focus? Yeah, that's what they look like. So they're maybe not as heavy as like poly pellets or rice would be. So we'll see how it works. I mean, these are not gnomes that are going to see a lot of heavy use. They'll probably just sit on a shelf or show up around the house as decoration. But there's more density here than you would see with the latex stuffing. So these will go on the bottom of the gnome, and then I just have to finish the decreases and finish the bottom, and then they will be ready for the next step. Okay, that is all the knitting I have to show you for today. I do have a couple of future projects that I want to discuss a little bit. Sometimes I talk about future projects and sometimes I don't, because you kind of never know what's going to materialize. But I've got a few things on the brain related to holiday knitting. I'm trying to get a little more on top of that this year. We'll see how that goes. So I just thought I would chat about that. All my stuff fell on the floor, so let me grab it. We went to Iceland this summer. We got to spend 2 weeks there, and it was fabulous. And the only souvenir I brought home was some yarn. Not even that much yarn, but boy, is it special. This was from a shop on the Ring Road. The woman who owns the shop raises her own sheep, and she dyed the gray and the black, or the charcoal and the gray are undyed, but these she dyed herself. It's just really cool. So I got these skeins thinking, okay, I'm going to make mittens for my kids for Christmas. And they know this. And I told them if they should act surprised if they wanted, but because I'm committed to that and said it out loud, I have to do it, and I really want to make sure I get them done. So I was looking around for some patterns and have things narrowed down. Each of these skeins is 50 grams. How many yards? 110 meters, which is, I don't know, maybe 120 yards. So if I'm gonna make a pair of colorwork mittens out of 2 skeins, I think that will be just enough. I'm actually just a teensy bit worried about this being enough for mittens for my son, just because, I'll have to make a little bit larger size. He's got a little bit bigger hands. So we'll see, but this is the color combination I'm using for my son, the blue and the light gray, because he wears these colors a lot. And this is the color combination I'm using for my daughter. Her hair is pretty much the same color as this caramely orange. And then I just really like how it goes with the black. And she wears dark colors all the time. So this is very, very much in line with her style. So I'm trying to use more patterns that I actually have, that I own, because I own so many. And I bought them because I liked them and wanted to make them. So one possibility is from this collection that I bought a long time ago. It's called the Red Collection by Mandy Powers. I think she used to be Zigzag Stitch. She doesn't even design anymore, but she was pretty hot there for a minute back in 2010. This is when this was printed. So it's like an independently published set of designs. Each one uses either some combination of black, gray, and red. And I really like these. I've made a few things out of here already. But the design that I was really drawn to were the Holly Jean mittens. And I'm gonna try to cover up like charts and things, but I just really, really like those. So I was thinking of making these for my daughter and not using the third color, just doing the black and the orange. Because that's a pretty long cuff, I hope that there is enough yarn. So that is something I'm kind of thinking about. Also, she knits these at a really tight gauge. It's 29 stitches over 4 inches for the mitten size that would fit my daughter. So that would be really, really, and this is DK weight yarn. So that would be really dense. So as much as I like these, I am having a little bit second thoughts. The other possibility is from this Tin Can Knits book called Color, which, as you may deduce from the title, has a whole bunch of really colorful designs for people of all sizes and ages and genders. But there is a pattern for a pair of mittens called Triptych. And I have made these before. I made these, I don't know, 5-6 years ago and gave them to a friend of mine for her birthday. And it's a fun pattern. It goes really fast. And I like that it's very geometric, you know, with the arrow, kind of that flying geese pattern going up the hand. So, and I think the gauge is also a little bit more appropriate to this weight of yarn. The gauge is 26 stitches over 4 inches in color work, which is nice and dense to make a warm mitten, but not like so stiff it's gonna stand up, you know, like hard metal. So I think that's what I'll do. I think what I'll do is start with the mittens for my daughter, because they would be a slightly smaller size, and I will see how much yarn it takes and determine from that if I'm gonna have enough to make the same thing for my son in a slightly bigger size. And if not, I will investigate incorporating another color maybe to help stretch it out, or maybe just finding a different pattern that would work for him. So that is my plan with those. I don't know exactly when I'll get started, but I find that with mittens, it takes me a lot to get started, but once you get going on them, they go really, really fast. Like, it's less knitting than a sock. It's more knitting than a hat, but it's, I don't know, sometimes it's more fun. So that's my plan with that. Now, speaking of holiday knits, I always make things for my little nieces, and I've been struck with inspiration lately because, like I said, I've been, you know, kind of laid up watching a whole bunch of knitting YouTube channels, and I was watching one the other day that's like hosted by 2 people, and one of them had made the same sweater pattern for like all of her grandchildren, and she has like 7 grandchildren, and it was so cute. And I saw that and I thought, oh my gosh, that would be perfect for my nieces who live in Virginia. So I actually went and found some yarn. It was on sale at the Sow's Ear. It's the perfect weight. They had a lot of fun colors, so I might as well just tell you about it because I'm probably gonna knit these. So the sweater is called Hide and Seek, and it's a design by Dani Sunshine, also known as Lioness Arts. I actually own several of her patterns. I haven't bought the Hide and Seek pattern yet, but I have several of her other patterns. I've made one of them and I loved it. I started another one and ripped it. It wasn't working out because of my yarn choice, not because of the pattern. But the Hide and Seek, you'll see pictures here, but it's got these pockets, it's got this cable running up and a little bit of contrast color, and it's just, oh my gosh, it's just adorable. So I went to the Sow's Ear and I was looking through their bin. They had a whole bunch of Barocco Ultra Wool DK, which is a super wash wool. And they had it in a bunch of colors. So I came home with more than I'm gonna need, but I'll use it for something. So for one of the sweaters, this will be the main color. Doesn't have a name. Yeah, it does, Verbena. It's a really beautiful heathery teal. For one of the sweaters, this will be the main color, and this is called Forget Me Not. And it's a really beautiful heathery, kind of purplish blue. It's a little washed out here on the video. By the way, guys, I apologize that my lighting isn't better. I don't own lights, like this is just natural light, and I decided to make the recording here by my piano because I think the light right now is a little better than where I usually am, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to, as we head into the darker months, or the months with the shorter days, I'm gonna have to think about lighting maybe a little more carefully, because I'm not always available at the brightest times of day. I'm working. Anyway, so for each of the girls, like one of them will get a sweater this color, one will get this color. And for the contrast, that's where I was kind of running into indecision. I'll show you the 3 contrast colors I picked out. I only need 1 contrast color. but I will show you the 3 because I couldn't decide, and these look good together, so like I'll use them for something. So there's this light teal, what's it called? It's called Breeze, kind of a sea foam. There's this bright red, which is just my favorite for everything, and I love it, and I probably would have bought it even if it didn't go with anything. And then there's this pale pink called Elysium. So my thought was, if I'm gonna make sweaters for both girls, like maybe I could do different main colors, but have one contrasting color shared between them, so it kind of ties them together. And if that were the case, I would probably use the pink for the contrast stripe. So this is how, it would not be a high contrast with this, but it would be really cute. And then this is how it would look with the teal. However, if I decided I don't care about about having the same contrast color, if I just go with what looks the best, these 2 are really, really good together. I really like that. This does not work at all. I just think they compete. They're just too similar in like hue. Is that the word I'm looking for? Like if I took a black and white photo of these, they would probably look pretty much the same. I don't like how they look together. But the red is really pretty with it. So I could do red stripes. Or if I decided this was too much of a contrast, because I kind of like it when it's a little bit more subtle, I could just do the pink. So I don't really know. I haven't totally decided, but I also haven't cast on, so I don't have to make up my mind just yet, just soon before I cast on. So while I'm contemplating what to make for my nieces, I thought I would just show you another thought that I've had percolating for a while for them. I actually have like a whole tub of yarn just to make stuff for my nieces. So did I have any business going and buying more? No, I did not. I have plenty. But I love the idea of them having like matching but not totally identical sweaters. So one thing that I've been planning for ages and just haven't gotten around to doing yet is there's another pattern by the same designer, Dani Sunshine, aka Lioness Arts, called Sister, and it's a very basic pullover, kind of has a V-neck thing happening, and it's written for DK weight yarn. And my thought was, how cute would it be if I found something like wildly variegated and held it together with a plain color to make a marled sweater. So last year I bought a whole whack of yarn from Republica Unicornia. I made this big order, I made a big splurge, and part of it was some yarn to make stuff for my nieces. So this is, I'm missing a label in one of them, but the base is called Merino Sock. So it's, pretty standard run-of-the-mill, 80% merino, 20% nylon. There's her logo. I love following her on Instagram. Kathleen just is like the coolest. And she has like these bright, vivid, wild colors. She has this whole like My Little Pony line, and it's not really my jam specifically, but it just seems so perfect for my nieces who are, they're little, they're 4 and 6. They are vivacious, they are energetic, they are full of personality, they love to wear bright colors, they both have like blonde hair and blue eyes, and the colors that you can get from Republica Unicornia just seem like so perfect for them. So for one of them, I got this. This is the label. So what is this named? It is called Sneaky Feelings. I don't know what that's in reference to, but I mean, it looks like candy to me. or, you know, like on My Little Pony. And this one, I forget what this one's called, but none of these are colors I would ever pick for myself or wear. There's like a bright coral, a lime green, some kind of teal action going on. Like there's a lot happening in this yarn, and there's a lot happening in this yarn. But my idea is I have this is plain, I think this is just heritage sock. This I picked up on deep discount from the Wisconsin Craft Market last year when they were closing out. So my idea is to just hold these together so it'll be toned down just a little bit and marled, but I'll get that DK gauge and they'll have like the same sweater design, but in these different colors. So these feel like more like springtime to me, but I don't know, maybe everything will get done by Christmas. Wouldn't that be a surprise? Okay, so, you know, I have like 1,000 other ideas floating around in my head for things that I want to make, but I better stop talking about it because, you know, I might say something here and you'll never see it because I'll get distracted by the next thing or decide to make another gnome or actually figure out what to do with the yarn from this epistrophe that I'm probably going to frog. Who knows? Who knows? All right, I have been talking for more than 50 minutes, so I should probably wrap things up soon and clean up before my kids get home from school. I did want to, I had a sewing project. Here we go. Wanted to update you on a sewing project. I made some project bags and I am going to donate these as a prize for a knit along that I am participating in, which I've mentioned a few times before. It is the Colors of Fall knit along that is hosted by the Yarniacs podcast. And I love that podcast. I have really enjoyed participating in the forums on Ravelry, and I've entered a few things in that knit along, which I've talked about here. But anyway, they get their prizes donated. So they have a thread in Ravelry of finished object posts. They might also check the hashtag on Instagram because not everybody can use Ravelry. It's not safe for everyone. So I think they're trying to be mindful of that. Anyway, they draw prizes. They draw for prizes, and I had won some fabric in another giveaway and decided that rather than keeping everything for myself, because I don't need it, maybe I'll make these bags and give them back because I'm just so, it's online life, but it has actually been a real important part of my, of my social life, especially in these times of isolation. So I think some of these I showed before, but I have 4 done. The fabric I won is like knitting and fiber themed, as you can see. So I don't know, this fabric, it's not showing up real well, but those look like knit stitches. So I just did like 4 patch, and then I have a plain lining and a drawstring at the top. I know a lot of people like zipper closures, but I am always afraid I'll get my yarn caught in the zipper. Plus I don't like sewing zippers. I find drawstrings much easier. So that's what I made. Here's another one that's about the same size. These are not big. These are big enough for like a sock project or a hat project, or maybe if you had 2 small skeins. So there's that one. These next 2 are even smaller. I was kind of playing around with different sizes of lining, so I hope this isn't too tiny, but like if you had, a baby hat project, or even if you had a bunch of extra needles and notions you need to carry around, this would be perfect for that. I have this cotton twill tape that I use for the drawstrings. I have like a big spool of it I ordered online one time, so that's been nice. And this, I don't see any fiber theme stuff, although these might be cotton plants kind of. But there's a teapot and teacup motif happening on the print. So anyway, it was fun to put these together. The fabric I got was just a stack of these 5-inch squares. So it was fun to put them together in different combinations and find plain colored fabric from my own stash to use for the lining and for the top part. And I'm just delighted to be able to offer these up in the pool of prizes for that knit along. So if you want to know more about that knit along, I'll have a link to their website, which is not on Ravelry, so it's safe for that. That I'll link to their blog post that has the podcast episode where they explain it. So yeah. That is all I have to share today. I can't believe I've been talking for almost an hour. Hopefully I'll be able to do another video in about 2 weeks so that I don't keep going on for so long, but thank you for joining me and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.